CEO Marcus Bradford sat in my inbox like a ticking bomb. Sarah, we need to discuss your sister's position at the company. My office, 9 a.m. tomorrow. I stared at those words until they blurred, my coffee growing cold beside my keyboard. Emma and I had always been inseparable, identical twins who finished each other's sentences, shared every secret, and even ended up at the same company. Now, as Chief Risk Officer at Bradford Financial, I was being asked to evaluate my own sister's performance. The morning traffic crawled through Manhattan streets as my mind raced through possibilities. Emma had risen quickly through the trading division, making a name for herself, with consistently high returns. Sure, there had been whispers about her aggressive strategies, but nothing concrete. Nothing that should have caught the CEO's attention. Marcus's corner office commanded a view of Central Park, the autumn leaves creating a canvas of red and gold below. He gestured for me to sit, his expression grave. Sarah, I'll be direct. The board has concerns about Emma's trading activities. The numbers don't add up. We need you to conduct a thorough audit and prepare termination papers if necessary. My throat tightened. Sir, given our relationship, wouldn't another officer be more appropriate? He shook his head. You're the most qualified person in risk management. More importantly, you're known for your integrity. The board trusts you to be objective, family or not. I left his office feeling like I was drowning. In the elevator, I caught my reflection, the same dark hair and green eyes as Emma. But today the similarities felt like a curse. How could I investigate my own twin? Back at my desk, I began pulling Emma's trading records. Everything looked perfect on the surface. Consistent profits, well-documented strategies, detailed reports. Too perfect, perhaps. I dug deeper, cross-referencing timestamps, comparing market data, looking for patterns that others might have missed. That's when I found the first discrepancy. A series of trades executed milliseconds apart, each one small enough to fly under regulatory radar, but together they painted a troubling picture. I expanded my search, going back months, then years. My hands trembled as I compiled the data. This wasn't just aggressive trading, this was systematic fraud. Complex algorithms disguised as normal market activities. Phantom trades that existed only on paper. And somewhere in all of this, $12 million that couldn't be accounted for. Working late? Emma's voice made me jump. She stood in my office doorway, elegant in her designer suit, wearing the confident smile that had helped her charm clients and colleagues alike. Just catching up on some reports, I said, carefully closing the files on my screen. You? Closed another big deal today. She perched on the edge of my desk, just as she used to sit on my bed during our late-night talks growing up. The clients are ecstatic. Marcus will have to consider me for the director position now. I studied her face, my face, essentially, looking for any sign of guilt or worry. There was none, just the same self-assured expression she'd worn since we were kids when she convinced me to switch places for exams or cover for her sneaking out. That's great, I managed. Hey, want to grab dinner this weekend? We haven't really talked lately. Can't. Flying to Aspen with James. She checked her watch. A Patek Philippe that probably cost more than my annual salary. Speaking of which, I should head out. Don't work too hard, sis. After she left, I sat in the darkening office, my mind spinning. The sister I thought I knew everything about was now a stranger. The same person who'd held my hand through our parents' divorce, who'd been my constant ally in a world that often struggled to tell us apart, had been orchestrating a massive financial fraud right under my nose. I pulled up the company's ethics policy on my screen, the words blurring as tears threatened to fall. As Chief Risk Officer, my duty was clear, but as a sister, the weight of my discovery pressed down like a physical thing, making it hard to breathe. My phone buzzed, a text from Emma. "Hey, almost forgot. Can you sign off on those Q3 risk assessments? Need them for a client meeting tomorrow. Love you." The casual request felt like a mockery now. How many other times had I signed documents without questioning her? Had my trust in her made me complicit? I opened my personal laptop and began documenting everything I'd found, creating copies and securing them outside the company's servers. If I was going to do this, I needed to be thorough. No one could accuse me of acting out of jealousy or spite. The night deepened outside my window, lights twinkling across the city like stars. In 48 hours, there would be a board meeting where Emma would present her latest trading strategies. She didn't know that I'd also be presenting, showing exactly how those strategies had been used to perpetrate a massive fraud. My twin sister, my other half, had built her success on lies, and now I had to decide: family loyalty or professional integrity, blood ties or legal obligations. As I gathered my things to leave, a photo on my desk caught my eye. Emma and me at our college graduation, arms around each other, identical smiles beaming at the camera. I turned it face down, unable to bear those smiling faces, and walked out into the night. The next morning, I arrived early, determined to gather final proof before the board meeting. The office was quiet, just cleaning staff, and a few early risers. I logged into the system, ready to compile my findings into a presentation. But something was wrong. Files were missing. Trading records I'd flagged were altered. The evidence of fraud was being systematically erased. My heart raced as I checked access logs. Multiple logins from my credentials, times when I knew I hadn't been at my computer. Then I remembered. Emma and I had shared everything growing up, including passwords, a habit we'd never quite broken. She knew. Somehow, she knew I was investigating her. As if summoned by my thoughts, a message popped up on my screen. Storage room. Now, we need to talk. I stood on shaky legs, straightening my jacket like armor. The storage room had been our secret meeting spot since we both started at the company, a place for sisterly gossip and support during tough days. Now it felt like walking into a trap. Emma was already there, her expression unreadable in the dim light. For a moment, we just stared at each other, mirror images caught in an impossible situation. "Why?" I finally asked. "Why did you do it?" She smiled, but it wasn't the warm smile I'd grown up with. This was something colder, more calculated. "Oh, Sarah, always so righteous, so by the book. Did you really think you were the only one who could figure it out?" "I have to report this," I said, my voice stronger than I felt. "You know that." "Do I?" She stepped closer. "Think carefully, sister dear. Your credentials are all over these transactions. Who's going to believe you didn't help me? That you didn't know all along?" The implication hit me like a physical blow. She'd used my trust, my access, my signature to cover her tracks. If this came out, we'd both go down. She must have seen the realization on my face because her expression softened. "It doesn't have to be this way. Help me clean this up, and we both win. The board meeting is tomorrow. One signature from you clearing my trades, and this all goes away." I backed away from her, my twin, my sister, this stranger wearing my face. "You really think I'd help you cover this up?" "Family first," she said, using the words our mother had drilled into us since childhood. We're twins, Sarah. Two halves of the same whole. You really want to destroy that? I turned and walked out, her words following me like shadows. Back at my desk, I stared at my blank screen, mind racing. The evidence was gone, erased or altered beyond recovery. Without proof, it would be my word against hers. And she was right. My credentials were tangled up in everything. Any investigation would implicate me too. But as I sat there, a memory surfaced. Something Grandma had told us when we were little, after catching Emma blaming me for a broken vase. The truth always finds a way out, dear ones. Always. I opened my email and began to type. Mr. Bradford, regarding tomorrow's board meeting. The first rays of dawn were breaking over the city, painting the sky in shades of promise and warning. In a few hours, I would walk into that boardroom and change everything. But first, I had work to do. The morning of the board meeting, I arrived at Bradford Financial 2 hours early. The sky was still dark, the office floors eerily quiet, except for the hum of computers and the occasional cleaning staff member. I had work to do before everyone arrived. Last night, after Emma's threat in the storage room, I'd remembered something crucial. In my first month as Chief Risk Officer, I'd implemented a shadow backup system, a secure, encrypted server that automatically mirrored all trading data. It was a precaution I'd insisted on after a major bank lost millions in a data crash. Emma didn't know about it. Nobody did, except the IT director who'd helped set it up. My hands trembled slightly as I entered the complex series of passwords. If Emma had somehow found this too. But no, the files were there. Every transaction, every altered record, every fraudulent trade, all preserved in their original form. Working early? I jumped at the voice. Marcus Bradford stood in my office doorway, looking impeccable in a charcoal suit despite the early hour. Sir, I need to show you something before the meeting. For the next hour, I walked him through what I'd found. The complex web of fraudulent trades, the manipulated timestamps, the shell companies Emma had created to hide the money trail. His face grew increasingly grave as he studied the evidence. 12 million, he finally said, running a hand through his silver hair. Right under our noses. And you're certain about this? I handed him a USB drive. Everything's here, including proof that my login credentials were used without my knowledge. He pocketed the drive, his expression unreadable. The board meets in an hour. Be ready. By 9, the tension in the boardroom was palpable. 14 people sat around the massive mahogany table, all focused on their tablets where the meeting agenda glowed. Emma sat near the head of the table, looking confident in a navy Armani suit that probably cost more than my monthly salary. When she caught my eye, she gave me a small smile. My stomach churned. Did she really think I would back down? That I would help her cover this up? Marcus called the meeting to order. Before we begin, there's been a development regarding the trading division's performance reports. Emma's smile widened as she reached for her presentation materials. Yes, I have the quarterly numbers right here. Not those reports. Marcus cut in. His voice was steel. Sarah, please proceed. I stood, my legs steadier than I expected. With a click of my remote, the room's screens lit up with transaction records, bank transfers, and damning evidence that I'd reconstructed from the backup server. Over the past 18 months, I began, my voice clear in the hushed room. A sophisticated fraud scheme has been operating within our trading division, using manipulated algorithms and phantom trades. approximately $12 million has been diverted through a network of shell companies. Emma's face went from confident to confused to pale as I continued my presentation. I showed the board everything: the fake trades, the altered timestamps, the money trail that led to offshore accounts. "This is ridiculous," Emma interrupted, standing up so abruptly her chair rolled backward. "These are legitimate trades. Sarah's just jealous because I've outperformed every metric." "Sit down, Miss Sullivan," Marcus ordered. "Your credentials were used to access and alter company records at 3 a.m. this morning. Care to explain that?" Emma's eyes darted to me, a flash of betrayal crossing her face. I was home asleep. Someone must have hacked. "We have security footage," I said quietly, "and the original records from a secure backup server you didn't know about." The color drained from her face. She sank back into her chair, her perfectly manicured hands gripping the armrests. "Given the severity of these allegations," Marcus continued, "I've already contacted the SEC and our external auditors. Ms. Sullivan, please surrender your company ID and devices. Security will escort you out." "You can't do this." Emma's voice shook. "Sarah, tell them. Tell them you helped me. Your credentials are all over these trades." I met her desperate gaze. "No, Emma, I didn't help you. You stole my passwords, used my trust, and tried to frame me when you got caught." Two security guards appeared at the boardroom doors. Emma's face contorted with rage as she stood. "Family first, remember? We're supposed to protect each other." "I am protecting you," I said softly, "from continuing down this path, from becoming someone who thinks it's okay to steal and lie and betray the people closest to them." She laughed, a harsh sound that didn't match her elegant appearance. "You self-righteous bitch. You really think you're better than me? That you're doing the right thing? Watch your back, sister dear. This isn't over." As security let her out, I remained standing, my presentation still glowing on the screens around us. The board members whispered among themselves, shooting glances between me and the door where my twin had just exited. Marcus cleared his throat. "Given the circumstances, we'll need to do a complete audit of all trading activities. Sarah, I want you to lead the investigation team. And thank you. I know how difficult this must have been." I nodded, unable to speak. The rest of the meeting passed in a blur of action items and next steps. When it finally ended, I walked to my office on shaky legs and closed the door. On my desk, the face-down photo from our graduation caught my eye. I picked it up, studying our identical smiles, remembering how simple everything had seemed back then. When had Emma changed? Or had she always been this way, and I just hadn't wanted to see it? My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "You chose your job over your own twin. Hope you can live with yourself." I blocked the number, but Emma's words echoed in my mind. Had I done the right thing? The moral thing, yes. The legal thing, absolutely. But family was supposed to be different. A knock at my door interrupted my thoughts. It was Lisa from HR, looking apologetic. "Sarah? We need you to sign some paperwork regarding the investigation." I followed her to a conference room where several thick folders awaited my signature. Each page felt heavier than the last. Documentation of my sister's crimes, written in cold, official language. As I signed the final page, my phone buzzed again. Another unknown number. "Check your email, sis. Remember that joint account we opened in college? Guess whose name is on all the transfers?" My blood ran cold. I'd forgotten about that account. We'd opened it together for spring break savings sharing the login like we shared everything else. Had she used it for the stolen money? Racing back to my office, I pulled up my email. There it was. Bank statements showing transfers from our joint account to known shell companies. My name, clear as day, on every transaction. Emma's final trap. Even as she was being caught, she'd made sure I couldn't escape unscathed. I stared at my computer screen, watching as my carefully constructed world began to crumble. The investigation I'd started was about to become much more complicated. And somewhere out there, my twin sister was smiling. 3 days after Emma's dramatic exit from Bradford Financial, I sat in my apartment surrounded by bank statements, old emails, and a growing sense of dread. The joint account she'd mentioned wasn't just a spring break savings account anymore. It had become a complex web of transactions that seemed designed to implicate me in her fraud. My phone rang. Marcus Bradford's number. My hand shook slightly as I answered. Sarah, the FBI's forensic team found something interesting. His voice was carefully neutral. Care to explain why your name is on transfers totaling over $2 million? I closed my eyes, feeling the walls closing in. Sir, that account, it's complicated. Emma and I opened it in college. I haven't used it in years, but we never closed it. Come to the office. Now, bring any documentation you have. The drive to Bradford Financial felt like heading to my own execution. The morning sun glinted off the building's glass facade, a stark contrast to the darkness I felt inside. In the lobby, 2 FBI agents waited with Marcus. Ms. Sullivan. The female agent stepped forward. I'm Agent Carter. We need to discuss some financial records. The next 4 hours were grueling. Every transaction, every password change, every login was scrutinized. I explained the history of the joint account, provided old emails showing I hadn't accessed it in years, handed over my personal bank statements proving I hadn't received any stolen funds. There's something else, Agent Carter said, sliding a document across the table. We found this in your sister's apartment. It was a letter, dated 3 years ago, in what appeared to be my handwriting. In it, I detailed plans to manipulate trading algorithms and divert funds. A perfect piece of evidence implicating me as the mastermind. That's not my signature, I said, studying the letter. Emma and I used to forge each other's handwriting as kids. We made it into a game, seeing who could do it better. A game that's now being used against you, Marcus observed grimly. Agent Carter leaned forward. Ms. Sullivan, we need you to help us understand your sister's methods. How she thinks, how she plans. You're our best chance at tracking down the missing millions. I looked at the fake letter again, remembering all the times Emma and I had cockered for each other growing up. But this wasn't about switching places for a math test anymore. This was serious fraud, and she tried to drag me down with her. Okay, I said. I'll help. But first, there's something you need to see. I pulled out my laptop and opened an encrypted folder labeled Twin Tricks, a detailed record of every time Emma had impersonated me over the years. Every forged signature, every switched identity, every borrowed password. I'd started keeping track in college, not out of suspicion, but because I was amazed at how often we got away with it. This is thorough, Agent Carter muttered, scrolling through the files. Emma thinks she knows all my secrets, I said, but she forgot that I know all of hers too. Over the next week, I worked with the FBI team, helping them understand Emma's patterns, her favorite hiding spots for money, her methods for covering her tracks, the ways she manipulated people and systems. Then came the breakthrough. "The money's in Singapore," I told Agent Carter, pointing to a series of transactions. "Every summer growing up, we played Monopoly with our grandfather. Emma always hid her money under the Singapore property card. She thought it was lucky." Within hours, the FBI had frozen accounts at 3 Singapore banks. $9 million of the stolen $12 million was recovered. Emma had been tracked to a luxury hotel in Bangkok, preparing to disappear with the remaining funds. The arrest made international news. "Twin sisters in Wall Street fraud drama," the headline screamed. Photos of us side by side, in court, at work, at our graduation, splashed across financial websites and newspapers. I watched the coverage from my office, where I'd been cleared of any wrongdoing. The documentation I'd kept, combined with the evidence from the shadow backup server, had protected me from Emma's attempts to share the blame. Then came the text I'd been dreading. "Mom wants to see you. Hospital. Room 318. Our mother had been admitted with chest pains after Emma's arrest. I hadn't visited, couldn't face her disappointment. But now, the hospital corridor seemed endless. In room 318, Mom lay pale against white sheets, looking older than her 60 years. "Sarah." Her voice was weak. "Why didn't you protect her?" I sat in the hard plastic chair beside her bed. "Mom, Emma stole $12 million. She tried to frame me for it. How was I supposed to protect her from that? You're twins. You're supposed to look out for each other." Tears rolled down her cheeks. "Now one of my daughters is going to prison." "And the other daughter?" I asked quietly. "The one who did the right thing. What about her?" Mom turned her face away. "Just go." I stood, my own tears threatening to fall. At the door, I paused. "You know what, Mom? Emma chose this path. She chose to steal, to lie, to betray everyone who trusted her, including me, especially me. I didn't put her in prison. She did that to herself." 2 months later, I sat in a federal courthouse, watching as Emma was sentenced to 15 years for fraud and money laundering. She pleaded guilty in exchange for a reduced sentence. When they led her away, she turned to look at me. For a moment, I saw a flicker of the sister I'd grown up with, the other half of my whole. Then her expression hardened, and she was gone. Outside the courthouse, reporters shouted questions. "Sarah, how does it feel to send your twin sister to prison? Do you regret turning her in? Will you ever forgive her?" I pushed through them to where Marcus waited by a company car. "Ready to go back to work?" he asked. I nodded. The board had named me head of global risk management, with a mandate to strengthen our fraud prevention systems. My first project? Implementing the shadow backup server across all divisions. That evening, I returned to my apartment and finally unpacked the box of family photos I'd hidden away after Emma's arrest. Each image told a story. Birthdays, holidays, graduations. 2 identical girls growing into 2 very different women. My phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. My heart stopped until I read it. "Ms. Sullivan, this is Agent Carter. Final recovery complete. All stolen funds returned to Bradford Financial. Thought you'd want to know." I picked up the graduation photo I'd kept face down for so long. 2 smiling faces, 2 identical futures full of promise. Emma had chosen her path, and I had chosen mine. Opening my laptop, I began typing my weekly risk management report. Tomorrow, I would walk into Bradford Financial not as Emma's twin, not as the woman who uncovered a massive fraud, but simply as Sarah Sullivan, head of global risk management. And that was enough. My phone buzzed again. Mom. I let it go to voicemail. Some relationships, like some investments, weren't worth the risk anymore.